War gods? Kayun 4 cocked an eyebrow. Really? Gods of war, Vok confirmed. Commander Vok was a Vulu, genetically engineered to serve as one of the soldiers of the Taknai supremacy. His skin was a void that absorbed all light. His eyes were crimson with a phosphorescent glow. His teeth were sharp. His hair was long and unruly, and his fingers were tipped with metal claws. His red armor was covered in weapons and trophies. Despite his savage appearance, the commander was a picture of military discipline. The priestess was quite specific. Why are you telling me this? Kayun resisted the urge to be annoyed. Like all Vradoon overseers, Kayun was tall, lean, and handsome, with silver skin and hair of gold. His people had been engineered for intelligence and bold leadership, useful traits for an administrator, but they led to arrogance. Kayun worked hard to avoid arrogance. It was the downfall of most of his kind. It's not like this is the first species to threaten us with the wrath of their gods. True, the commander allowed. He tucked his hands behind his back, gazing out the viewport at the burning ruins that used to be a city. His eyes grew troubled. But these ones really mean it. To them, the gods of war are scientific fact. They are not afraid of us, Overseer. As far as the Nikova are concerned, we are already dead. That lack of fear will cost them, Kayun noted, but they will learn soon enough. He smiled encouragingly. Commander Vok kept his back straight, but one of his hands was nervously stroking the large gun strapped to his back. How curious. Kayun tilted his head. The Nikova are not afraid, but you are. I am Vulu, Vok reminded him. I fear nothing. It is not wise to lie to an overseer, Commander, Kayun admonished. Vok bristled. Kayun raised a hand to silence him. Vulu warriors were designed to feel fear. Fear is necessary to do what you do. He turned from the Vulu to gaze out at the burning city. The first of your kind truly didn't feel fear, and where are they now? Dead. Dead soldiers are of no use to the supremacy, Vok. He shook his head. No, the supremacy needs your fear. Hiding it from me is counterproductive. He met the Vulu's eyes. Is there something I need to know, Commander? Vok said nothing. Nothing to say? Kayun smiled, turning back to the viewport. It's not like you to be nervous, Commander. Vok continued to say nothing. Kayun sighed. Most of his kind saw Vulu as dumb brutes. They were born to kill and raised to kill, and that was all they were really good for. Kayun knew better. Vok was smarter than most Vradoon, cunning and insightful, with a knack for unconventional solutions. The other Vradoon mistook obedience for efficiency, but Kayun encouraged his people to take initiative and think for themselves. Vok knew that. Whatever the commander was thinking, it must be treasonous indeed if he was afraid to speak. Out with it, Commander, the Vradoon ordered. Speak freely, that's an order. We should leave, Vok told him. Kayun gave him a sharp look. Vok continued. We should put the Nikova back and get out of this sector, right now. Kayun stared at the man. He couldn't be serious. Why would we do that? Vok didn't answer right away. He stared out the viewport. You see that city? It would be hard to miss, Kayun answered. Why do your people insist on setting everything on fire? We like fire, Vok admitted, but that's not the point. That city is more advanced than anything we've ever seen. They are technologies our engineers can't even identify. Kayun raised an eyebrow. Then why are you burning it? Because the city is more advanced than anything we've ever seen, Vok answered reasonably. And the Nikova will have a hard time finding armories when everything's on fire. He was silent for a moment. They don't live there, you know. Kayun gave him an annoyed look. Are you being cryptic on purpose? No, the Vulu continued. This planet's got hundreds of cities like this, fully automated and capable of producing anything the Nekova could wish for. The cities are empty. The Nekova live in villages they built themselves, with plumbing and solar power, and not much else. They don't go in the cities. We don't know why. Strange. As Kayun spoke, beams of light thundered down from the sky. They struck the city, smashing buildings and spreading waves of plasma. Kayun frowned. Vok, why are we orbitally bombarding an empty city? Because we like fire. The commander shrugged. And because the city repairs itself. We have to apply plasma every few hours if we want to keep it burning. I see. Kayun tapped the side of his cheek, thinking. An advanced, empty metropolis was not enough to explain the commander's fear. If anything, such a find was a cause for celebration. What else? This planet is only a few hundred light years from the Evali homeworld, Commander Vok told him. They knew it was here. They never came. Rumor has it their generals were happy to give us the coordinates. It does pay to be accommodating, Kayun reminded him. Accommodating? Vok snorted. The Evali have defied us at every turn since we conquered them, and they weren't accommodating. They were happy. They know something we don't. The Evali are superstitious, Kayun chided. I don't see a cause for concern. I am not finished, said Vok. Our scouting fleet didn't pick up any orbital defenses, but they did find the monitoring station. Alien, highly advanced. It sent us a transmission before it was destroyed. Did it? Kayun hadn't heard about that. Has it been translated? We didn't have to, said Vok. It spoke in our language. It said the planet was off limits. It promised death to any species that harmed the Nekova. The commander placed a hand on his disruptor. It said they were under the protection of humanity. Humanity? Kayun's eyes widened. That's not possible. The humans are a myth. The translation named them specifically. Vok's grip tightened on his weapon. When it detected our weapons lock, the station said one more thing. Fuck around and find out. The famous phrase, Kayun hummed. Why was I not informed of this? High Overseer Brydun was informed, Vok told him. If he chose not to share the information, it is not my place to question. Kayun raised an eyebrow. And yet you chose to share it yourself. You ordered me to speak freely, Vok reminded him. Kayun's eyes narrowed. Commander Vok had no reason to speak to the High Overseer, let alone whoever extracted the Nekovan world's coordinates. How do you know all of this? The Vulu serve the Supremes, Vok said seriously. We share information that we may serve the Supremes better. Really? Kayun smiled in spite of himself. That's a nice way of saying soldiers like to gossip. The Vulu do not gossip, Vok told him. We share information in the service of the Supremes. Kayun wiped his smile away. Vok wasn't joking. As far as he knew, the commander had never told a joke in his life. No Vulu had. The soldiers of the Supremacy were grim and serious people. I see. My mistake. He watched the city burn for a moment. The transmission must be a fake, surely. That is what the High Overseer believes, Vok said non-committally. You disagree, I take it? Kayun saw the commander hesitate. Remember that you are under orders to speak your mind. Yes, Vok grimaced. If there is even a small chance of angering a species like the humans, one planet is not worth the risk. I do not believe the chance is small. Come now, Commander, Overseer Kayun chided. You don't honestly believe the humans were real, do you? There is substantial evidence that they existed, said the Vulu. Evidence that has been debunked, Kayun pointed out. Every artifact that has been found was a forgery. Every recording was unclear, circumstantial, or fake. The Supremes themselves confirmed it. The Supremes are not infallible, Vok stated. Kayun stared at the commander in shock. Vok continued. They are the rightful rulers of the universe, superior to all others. That does not make them perfect. The Supremes are not all-knowing. They rarely make mistakes, but it has happened. It will happen again. Commander Vok, Kayun started, voice hard. You ordered me to speak freely, Vok reminded him. I didn't order you to blaspheme against our creators, the overseer snapped. You ordered me to speak freely, the commander repeated. The Supremes are not all-knowing. I have learned things today that they do not know. You could be relieved of command for saying such things, Kayun warned. Perhaps even executed. I serve the Supremes. Vok was unfazed. I will perform the execution myself if you command it. He frowned. My apologies, Overseer. I have neither compiled a report nor briefed my executive officer. I felt it prudent to bring this information to you first. May I finish my report before I am put to death? Kayun glared at the man. Commander Vok waited. The Overseer sighed. Once again, the Vulu was completely serious. Kayun was starting to rethink his policy of encouraging people to think for themselves. He forced himself to swallow his outrage and take a deep, calming breath. That may not be necessary. Vok opened his mouth to protest. Kayun raised a hand. Your execution, not your report. Vok closed his mouth. Kayun lowered his hand. Please, continue. Yes, Overseer. Commander Vok took a moment to collect his thoughts. After learning of the monitoring station, I had our medicos run some tests. The Nekova are not naturally evolved. Engineered? Genetically engineering was hardly a rare technology, but it required far more scientific knowledge than the Nekova had shown. Are you certain? My chief medical officer is, Vok confirmed. There's been significant genetic drift, but the markers are still there. The Nekovans are a bioengineered species. Engineered for what purpose? Kayun wondered. Not combat, surely. Definitely not, Vok agreed. They don't even have proper weapons. They tried to fight us with stones and sticks. The Overseer gave an amused grunt. Vulu soldiers could tear through a steel bulkhead with their bare hands. Their skin could repel small arms fire. Attacking one with a stick was. I don't imagine that went well. Oh no, Overseer, the commander disagreed. It went very well. My soldiers barely had to kill any of them, and we didn't take a single casualty. Kayun resisted the urge to sigh again. Is there anything more to report? The Overseer asked. There is one more thing, Overseer, Commander Vok told him. I had one of the local Nekovan leaders brought to an interrogation room. I believe it would be prudent to question her. The commander drew one of his disruptors. That concludes my report, Overseer. I can die now if that is your command. Kayun scowled at him. I told you that would not be necessary. You told me it may not be necessary, the commander corrected. The barrel of his disruptor rested against his temple. Kayun frowned. Once again, Commander Vok was being literal. His hand was steady. He stared straight ahead. Vok really would pull the trigger if the order was given. Put your weapons away, Commander, the Overseer said warily. We have a prisoner to interrogate. It was a short walk to the brig. Before going in, Kayun observed the prisoner on the monitor. It was a female. The Nekovan was a two-armed biped. Her skin was a palish pink color. Her hair was dark. She had 2 sets of ears. The first set was similar to Kayun's, but the second set was triangular and covered in black fur. The female's long, slender tail was also covered in dark fur. The female wore a white dress and a silver pendant with a strange symbol on it. An amulet of their gods, no doubt. They were an attractive species, Kayun supposed. The Supremes would be pleased. They had a fondness for aesthetically pleasing slaves. Something to do with their reproductive urges, he'd heard. Kayun didn't understand such things. His people were incapable of biological reproduction. The female sat in front of a small table. Her hands were bound, but that did not stop her from clutching her silver pendant. She whispered a phrase to herself over and over. "What is she saying?" Kayun asked. "An Ekovan prayer," said Vok. "She's calling out to the gods of war." Of course she is. The overseer should have expected as much. Very well, let us proceed. 2 heavily armed Vulu soldiers led the way into the interrogation room. They posted themselves next to the entry. Kayun and Commander Vok entered a moment later. The commander moved to stand next to the table, looming over the female. Kayun activated his implants. Vradoon Truthfinder implants were effective, but he had to use them sparingly. The implants would tell him when someone was lying, but their functions took a toll on his brain. Using them for more than a few minutes would give him a migraine. Using them longer would cause brain damage. It was a dangerous, painful tool, but the Supremes had given it to Kayun for moments just like this. "Why is this woman still restrained?" the overseer demanded. The female looked up. The door guards didn't react. Commander Vok gave Kayun a startled look. It was an act, of course. The Nekovan was restrained because that was the protocol. Releasing those restraints and offering an apology was a quick and easy way to build rapport. Kayun pointed imperiously at Commander Vok. "Release her at once!" Vok knew his role. He gave the overseer a fearful, chastened look as he released the female's bindings. The Nekovan glared at the Vulu, rubbing her wrists. Kayun turned to the door guards. "Leave us, now!" The Vulu saluted and left. The overseer turned back to the female. "I am so sorry for that. May I offer you some refreshment?" The Nekovan looked up at him. Her face was a mix of anger and confusion, with a hint of fear. Her tail twitched.
I would like some water."
"You," Kayun ordered Vok. "Fetch water for the lady." Vok saluted and left. Kayun took a seat. He tried to look contrite. "Let me apologize again. When I said I wished to speak with you, I did not expect my men to treat you so harshly." The female's eyes narrowed.
"I don't believe you."
"It's true," Kayun lied. "The Vulu are the strong arm of the Taknai supremacy. They are loyal, but—" He gave her an apologetic smile. "They can be a bit overzealous in their duties."
"It's not going to work,"
the female told him. Kayun blinked. "What isn't?"
"Acting friendly."
The female folded her arms and leaned back.
"Pretending this was all a big mistake. I may be primitive, but I'm not stupid. You're slavers, come to harvest my people. The only reason I'm in this room is so you can extract information."
Smarter than she looked. "It's a standard interrogation tactic," Kayun admitted. "A little transparent, I admit, but you'd be surprised how often it works."
"It's a waste of both our time,"
said the Nekovan.
"If you have questions, ask."
"If I do," the overseer inquired, "will you answer honestly?" The female glowered.
"I have no need to lie."
Kayun's implants said she was telling the truth. Perhaps the direct approach would be best. "Very well. Let's start with your name."
"My name is Kira Minerva."
The female spoke with proud defiance.
"I am a high priestess of the gods of war."
"I see." The door opened. Commander Vok entered and placed a bottle of water on the table in front of the Nekovan. He took up a post next to the door. Kayun leaned forward, steepling his fingers in front of him. "Tell me about these war gods."
"Ah,"
the Nekovan smiled.
"So that's why I'm here. You're too late, you know. The call has been sent. There's not stopping them now."
She wasn't lying. That only makes it more important to learn what I can, said Kayun. Who are the war gods? What are they to you? The look she gave him sent a chill down his spine. Kayun was used to seeing defiance. Anger and fear were routine. He'd never seen a prisoner regard him with pity before.
You really don't know?
Enlighten me, he insisted. Please.
The monitoring station should have warned you,
Kira remarked. She cocked an eye at Kayun.
Unless... Did you blow it up?
There was no monitoring station when I entered the system, Kayun shrugged. It's possible it was destroyed before I arrived.
Oh, you poor fools.
Kira shook her head.
All right, I'll tell you the story.
She looked at Commander Vok.
You might as well have a seat, Commander. This will take some time.
I prefer to stand, said Vok. He frowned. How do you know my rank?
I already told you,
the woman said primly.
I'm primitive, not stupid.
She took a sip of water.
Now pay attention and hold your questions to the end. I'm only going to go through this once.
Kira the Nikovan closed her eyes. She took a breath, then opened them. Her voice came out in a soothing, rhythmic cadence.
Long ago, there were people called the humans. They came from a world of death, and they brought death with them. Into the stars they strode, smiting all who stood in their way. Battle after battle, the humans grew. They rarely lost. They never surrendered. They always survived. The human people grew and grew, until one day they were people no longer. They were gods, immortal, invincible, implacable. The humans were proud at first, proud to have ascended, proud to be more than they once dared dream. That pride turned to dismay when they realized the nature of their ascension. The humans had not shed their mortality through love or enlightenment or wisdom. They had done so through violence. They were beings of death and domination, gods of war. The war gods recoiled at what they had become. They did not want to be destroyers. They did not want to be feared. In desperation, they turned to the Zun-Ra, gods of life. The gods of life examined the war gods, their genome and their science and their culture. The humans were hopeful, but the Zun-Ra dashed those hopes. Humans were gods of war. It was a fact the gods of life could not change. The Zun-Ra did something else. They took what they learned from the humans, and they did what gods of life do. They created. They created us. The Zun-Ra used humanity as a template, but we were not created to be gods of war. We were built to serve. The gods of life were not kind to the Nikova. One does not become a god of life through kindness. We were made to be playthings, and that is how we were used. Our ancestors were genetically compelled to worship the Zun-Ra, to do as they willed with no regard for ourselves. We suffered, but we could not say no. Great was the rage of the humans when we were discovered. The gods of war demanded that the Zun-Ra set us free, turn us into people. The gods of life laughed. They were older than the humans, stronger. They called the humans fools and promised to make them playthings as well. It was a mistake. The Zun-Ra were ancient and strong, but they were not gods of war. The humans destroyed them utterly. They rescued as many Nikovans as they could, fearful that the gods of life would kill us in revenge. But the gods of life did not destroy us. Their revenge was far worse. The Zun-Ra changed the Nikovans. We were altered to worship the humans as we worship the gods of life. We could not say no. We begged to be their playthings. The humans were horrified. They did not want us to be playthings. They wanted us to be people. For centuries the humans worked, tried to fix what the Zun-Ra had done. They did the best they could, but gods of war are not gods of life. They weakened our compulsion. but they could not remove it. We worshipped them despite their protests. The humans made the only choice they could. They removed themselves. We were placed on this world, a garden with just enough danger to help us evolve. We were given great cities to protect us and help us grow. The humans gave us the world and left, so that we could be free, so we could become people. The war gods kept their distance, but they did not leave us unaided. Their protection circled this world. All who came to visit were turned away. All who dared to harm us were destroyed. Our people were left in peace to evolve unhindered, until one day the gods of war left.
Why'd they leave? Asked Kayun.
I told you to hold your questions,
Kira reminded him.
I'm getting there.
Kira finished her bottle of water, then continued.
A horror came from beyond the stars, from Andromeda, an elder species that failed their ascension. They became dark, twisted. They consumed their galaxy and came for ours. A fifth of the galaxy was lost before the war gods could stop them. When they saw the devastation of the twisted gods, the humans finally accepted their nature. They were gods of war. They would destroy and dominate, not for themselves, but for others. The humans burned the twisted gods from the galaxy, but more would come. To keep us safe, the humans had to leave. They would follow the twisted gods back to Andromeda and purge them from the universe. Even the humans could not undertake such a task alone. They demanded the assistance of all the elder races. The other Ascended did not wish to leave, but none dared defy the gods of war. Within a handful of years, the elders of this galaxy were gone.
Kira sighed.
That was 10,000 years ago. The Nakovan people have come a long way since then. We've learned plumbing and electrics and science. We've learned to say no, to be people, just like the war gods wanted. We still miss them, still love them, but now it's a choice.
What about? Commander Vok clamped his mouth shut as Kira looked at him.
You can ask questions now,
Kira told him graciously. What about the cities? The Vulu asked. If they are made to protect you, why do you not go there?
The cities only protected us for a time,
Kira explained.
Their task was to help us grow. They cared for us and taught us, but cast us out when they judged we could fend for ourselves. The cities won't hurt us, but they won't help us anymore either.
Vok nodded, then asked another question. If the humans have been gone for 10,000 years, why are you certain they are coming for you?
Because they always have,
Kira shrugged. You mean they've come back before? Kayun leaned forward. More than once?
Several times,
the female confirmed.
You're not the first species to attack my people. When we call for help, the war gods always come.
She wrapped a hand around her pendant and spoke with reverence.
Always.
Kayun and Vok shared a look. Vok asked the pertinent question. How long? How long does it take them to get here?
How long?
Kira smiled.
Minutes, usually. I told you before that it was too late. The war gods have been watching you for nearly a day. It won't be long before they make their presence known.
Kayun resisted the urge to rub his aching head. He deactivated his implants. He'd heard enough. The priestess hadn't told a single lie. I see. He stood. Please excuse me. He jerked his head at Commander Vok. They left together. Kayun moved to the nearest communication terminal. He activated it. This is Overseer Kayun of the Bloody Tempest. This is a Priority Violet. I repeat, Priority Violet. I need to speak to High Overseer Bradoon immediately. Kayun only had to wait a few minutes, but it felt much longer. Finally, the High Overseer's annoyed face appeared on the view screen.
What do you want, Kayun? I'm busy.
This is a priority violet emergency, Kayun told him. We need to return the Nikovans to their world, right now.
Don't be ridiculous, Kayun,
the High Overseer sneered.
Priority violet? You think there's a threat that could endanger the Supremes themselves? Have you lost your mind?
High Overseer, Kayun pressed. We have reason to believe the Nikova are under the protection of the humans.
Yes.
Radun waved away his concern.
I'm aware of the monitoring station. A clever way to discourage attack, but nothing more. The humans do not exist.
I have uncovered substantial evidence that they do, Kayun informed him, and that they are watching us right now.
Humans? Watching us right now?
High Overseer Bradun laughed.
You should hear yourself, Kayun.
Bradun's humor fell away, leaving only contempt.
If you're going to chase wild stories, at least pick one that makes sense.
That's the problem with reality, Bradun, Kayun growled. Reality doesn't have to make sense. The humans are here, right now.
You always were unconventional,
Bradun sneered.
But I didn't take you for a fool. Consider yourself relieved of duty. I'll send another Radun to take your place.
Take my position, Kayun hissed. Kill me if you want, but at least listen to my report. The evidence is compelling. The Supremes must be informed.
The Supremes are informed.
The voice was low, rasping, with an arrogance that made Bradun look like a picture of humility. A new face appeared on the view screen, a creature of perfect beauty, from his pebbly yellow skin to his slavering toothy maw. A feeling of awe washed over Kayun. He bowed low. Supreme One, he spoke with reverence. I did not know one of your greatness had joined our expedition.
Don't waste my time,
Supreme growled.
You have a report, yes?
Yes, Supreme One. Kayun bowed again. He spoke quickly, outlining what he learned as efficiently as he could. It was difficult to keep his voice steady. A Supreme. He was speaking to a Supreme. The Overseer would have danced with joy if the situation wasn't so dire. The Supreme listened with patient indifference. When Kayun finished, the Supreme One turned to Bradun.
I think this one's defective. He will be purged immediately, Great One,
the High Overseer intoned. Kayun's world fell apart. The Supreme had judged him and found him wanting. He fell to his knees. A pair of legs appeared next to him. Kayun looked up to see Commander Vok. The commander's eyes held an emotion Kayun had never seen on a Vulu. Pity. The commander drew a disruptor off his belt and offered it to the defective Overseer. Kayun took it.
No.
The Supreme's decision stopped Kayun just before he could pull the trigger.
Not yet. This isn't the first instance of a Radun deviating from the template. Relieve him of duty and imprison him. He will be studied before he is discarded.
The disruptor fell from Kayun's hand. Commander Vok caught it.
Yes, my Supreme!
High Overseer Bradun bowed. He looked out through the view screen and pointed at Vok.
You, Commander! Take Kayun into custody. Keep him monitored. I don't want him damaging himself before he can be studied.
Yes, High Overseer. Commander Vok saluted. The High Overseer cut the transmission. Vok hauled Kayun to his feet. He pulled the former Overseer's hands behind his back and applied restraints. The despondent Radun offered no resistance as Vok brought him back to the brig. They were halfway there when the commander's comm badge chirped.
Commander Vok,
a voice reported.
3 ships have appeared next to the Armada, unknown design.
Commander Vok hesitated, then growled into the comm.
Battle stations. I must take this prisoner to confinement before I return to the bridge.
Yes, sir.
The voice acknowledged. A moment later, the ship rocked. Kayun was knocked off his feet, but Vok caught him. The Vulu slapped his comm badge.
Report!
All our vessels in space have been destroyed, Commander.
The voice was steady, matter of fact.
All land-bound vessels have also been struck. Our weapons and propulsion have been destroyed.
Vok growled in frustration.
Understood. Get us functional.
His eye widened.
Lieutenant, the Supreme. Was he?
Unknown, sir.
The voice quavered.
I do not know which ship the Supreme was on.
Find out,
the commander snapped.
Vok out.
The Vulu grabbed Kayun's arm.
We need to get you into confinement. Run!
Kayun nodded. The commander had been given an order. He could do nothing until it was completed. With Vok steadying him, the Vradoon ran as fast as he could. He skidded to a halt and almost fell when he caught sight of the brig. The guards were dead. Only a few of them had managed to draw their weapons. The door to Kira's interrogation room stood open. Vok urged Kayun forward.
This will do. Go!
Kayun stumbled into the room. It was not empty. Kira sat calmly where the former overseer had left her. Beside her stood a male in armor. His face and body were covered, but Kayun knew what he was, the only thing he could be, a god of war. Vok reacted with immediate violence. Faster than Kayun could see, the commander whipped out his largest cannon and opened fire. A blast of charged particles flew for the human with enough force to destroy a fighter craft. It stopped in front of the god's outstretched hand. The human touched the mass of burning light. Instead of exploding, it flowed into the thing's armor. Vok dropped the gun. He pulled a vibroblade and launched himself at the man. The human caught his wrist and punched him in the sternum. Vok flew past Kayun, slamming into the bulkhead hard enough to bend the metal. He shot to his feet, but a band of energy restrained him before he could try again. "Stop that," the human ordered. "I'm supposed to keep you alive, but that doesn't mean I have to keep you in one piece."
Alive?
Vok frowned at the war god.
Why?
I asked him to.
Said Kira. She looked sympathetic.
Because you're like us.
I am nothing like you.
Vok spat.
The Vulu serve the Supremes.
Exactly,
said Kira.
You were bioengineered to serve another species. All this.
The Nakovan gestured around.
It's not really your fault.
I don't need your pity, Nakovan.
The commander struggled against his bonds.
I am proud of what I am.
And you?
Kira asked Kayun. It doesn't matter, he told her. I am defective. It's worse than that. The war god spoke. You are a person. That's why your Supreme rejected you.
You don't have to stay like this,
Kira told him.
The war gods are not unkind. They can help you, like they helped us.
We don't want your help,
Vok told her.
We will serve the Supremes until we die.
As you wish. The human drew a gun. Commander Vok turned into a pile of ash.
Vok!
Kayun cried.
Why'd you do that?
Kira demanded. He made a choice. The war god explained. We have to respect it. The man sighed. We'll give as many choices as we can, but I don't think many Vulu will take it. His words inspired a slim hope in Kayun. The Vradoon grasped it. And the Supremes? Will they be given a chance to live as well? No. The human's words plummeted Kayun back into despair. Your kind are victims. The Taknai are not. My boot and their asses have a rendezvous coming.
What about you?
The female asked Kayun.
Will you die serving those who rejected you?
Kayun stared at the remains of his friend. All was lost. I don't know. You'll have time to decide. The war god told him. We're leaving now. You can follow us or not. The human helped Kira out of her chair. She smiled at him.
I'd like to thank you if this is done. Over dinner.
The human froze. Kira frowned.
My house burned down, but I'm sure we could work something out.
Oh, crap. The god swore in alarm. He looked down at himself. Is my suit leaking?
It's not pheromones,
Kira assured him.
I just like you.
The god of war escorted the woman past Kayun. He reached down, severing the Verdune's restraints along the way. Kayun watched them go. The god had called him a person. Was he? Or was he a plaything? A servant to evil gods? The Supreme had called him defective, but Kayun had been right. The humans had been real. Vok had said the Supremes could make mistakes. Now Kayun had seen for himself. What should he do now? He could try to return to Supremacy space, warn his masters, and submit himself for dissection. Kayun slumped. It wouldn't matter. The war gods were angry. He'd seen what they could do. Kayun was an able administrator, but he had no hope against such a force. The Supremes were going to die. Maybe they should die. The words came against his will. It was blasphemy. Maybe Kayun really was defective. He mulled that over for a long time. Then he laughed. Kayun couldn't save his gods from the humans. He was free. Kayun had never known freedom before. He wasn't sure he wanted it. Should he choose death, as Vok had? Or should he take Kira's offer? Let the war gods teach him to be more. Kayun did not know.